Hi, welcome back to Teen TV Deep Dive. I'm your host, Alyssa, and today I didn't want to waste too much time on the intro. I just wanted to get straight into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about Season 3 of Gossip Girl. So if you haven't already listened to my episodes talking about Season 1 and Season 2, I highly recommend that you watch them. I've linked them down in the description box below, so that you can be brought up to speed as I share my opinions and we deep dive into Season 3 today. So everyone is in their first year post-high school. We have Dan, Serena, Blair, Nate, and Vanessa are all going to college. And then Chuck is just pursuing a career in business, and he just kind of jumped straight into the workforce, which I thought was kind of cool. But even though the five that I did mention are on the more college path of things, everyone's having a really different experience. So we have Serena, who had the intentions of going to Brown, but she just wasn't ready to leave New York. Like, she had all of her friends there, family, and she's never really lived anywhere besides New York City. So I definitely understand where she was struggling and just wasn't ready to leave the city behind yet. So she ends up not going to Brown, and she also chooses to go into the workforce, and she chooses to have a job kind of in like public relations and that sort of thing. Then we have Dan, who's going to NYU. Him, Vanessa, and Blair all go to NYU, and they all have very different experiences. We have Dan, who is adjusting really well, and he's fitting in. He's finding his tribe way more easily than some of the other characters, especially after high school. He's found some friends that are into writing like him, and just finding a group of people that are passionate about their schoolwork and just care a lot more about their education and future in comparison to like all his other friends from high school. So I think he's like fitting in really well in NYU. And then you have Vanessa, who she's also doing well. She's trying a lot of new things and just going outside of her box that she was kind of in from homeschool, and she was more into film, but now she's expanding her horizons and going into different parts of production and stuff when it comes to entertainment. And she's like interacting with more people who are more humble and like just down to earth like she is, because like I said, she was homeschooled, so she doesn't really deal with people that aren't Dan and then the Upper East Side kids. Those are kind of the only people that she knows, so she's getting to meet new people too. Out of the three, Blair is struggling the most. She's so used to having that queen bee and empire behind her, and Blair kind of being the boss of everyone. She's struggling a lot to find friends in college because no one really cares about popularity, and no one really wants to be bossed around. Everyone is just kind of looking to have a good time and kind of find people that have similar interests to them. So Blair kind of doubts herself and kind of wonders what would life be like if things at Yale have worked out for her. So she feels pretty down in the dumps for it. Then we have Nate, who decided to go to Columbia. He defied his dad, and his dad really wanted him to go to Dartmouth, but he decided to go to Columbia. But you rarely ever see that man there. He's hardly ever at school. So I don't know how Columbia is going too well for him. But yeah. So this season is kind of like the season for the friends to lovers trope, I like to say, because everyone is kind of coupled up with someone that they had a lot more friendship and just a lot more foundation to the relationship before they got together. So I kind of enjoy that. It's something new, something kind of refreshing to see. But first, I wanted to talk about Jenny and just her character from Season 3 as a whole. So this season, we see that Blair has kind of left behind her legacy and just her queen role at Constance Billard to Jenny. Jenny is now trying to turn over and make it a new empire. At first, Jenny wanted to kind of create it to where it's more open for everyone and everyone has the freedom to just be their self and no one has to live in terror or just like these wars between the different girls, because that's something that she had to experience with Blair when Blair's reign was like kind of current. But then something kind of changes where she sees that it doesn't work without social hierarchy kind of in the show. So then Jenny does turn into Blair, but almost worse, because she even starts to pick on Eric, who's now her stepbrother. And you just see her character go downhill. She's very sneaky, like even sneakier than Blair. She's very manipulative as well. So you see her kind of mold people and kind of shift them around as if they're like chess pieces so that she can get what she wants. Then you kind of see that bad things constantly happen to Jenny. She's one of the few characters on the show who doesn't have frequent romantic interests. From the second season, we've seen that she had a boyfriend who didn't even like girls for real. Then this season, she sees this guy. His name is Damien. He went to boarding school with Serena, and turns out he was a dealer. So he had Jenny swept up in the game, and he would pressure her more and more to help him deal and just to do a lot more stuff that she just wasn't ready for. So she breaks things off with him, and Jenny kind of feels upset because she doesn't see why everyone else doesn't have these same struggles, especially in the romance department that she has. So she's very desperate for kind of anyone or any kind of just affection or a confession of feelings from someone. And as we all know, bad things always happen to Jenny, and Jenny gets swept up in the wrong crowd in season 2. And those girls come back and they slip something in her drink. After they slip something in Jenny's drink, they just drop her off at this random bar with a bunch of guys. And then we see Nate comes in and he saves the day, and he tries to get Jenny to get home. And he still covers for her when Rufus tries to inspect, and he tries to see if something's going on. Nate still covers her. So Jenny does see it like a genuine friendship with Nate. At first she was kind of embarrassed because he would constantly come and save the day in season 2. But now she's really grateful for it. But you can see that Jenny catches feelings for Nate, and she tries to get him to like her, even though he doesn't, because he's with someone else, and we'll get into that later in today's episode. She still tries. She tries to break them up so badly, and she'll do so many things, it's so wild. But yeah, I think that Jenny likes Nate because he's the only person that cares for her. It kind of shows that he cares about what she does and just her well-being overall. And it's crazy because they have such a close-knit family, and Rufus is one of the more present parents on the show. It's so crazy how he just seems like he's at a loss of words with Jenny, or he just doesn't really know what to do at this point or how to be a parent. Because I do understand that Dan and Jenny are really different, and so how Rufus can step into Dan's life and how he steps into Jenny's life kind of do need different approaches because of their different personalities. But you just get this vibe that Rufus doesn't care for Jenny as much as he does Dan, and he's just kind of tired of losing this battle of, even when he tries to step in and reprimand Jenny, she just doesn't care. So she kind of has a fractured relationship with her dad at the moment. Dan is always swept up in his own world, so she doesn't have the protection from her older brother that she kind of needs in her life right now. So she just kind of has Nate. So I think that's why she's so drawn to him. But I don't think Nate is interested in the same way that Jenny is. I think that he's a really good friend, and he's just a shoulder to lean on in multiple different characters' lives. But because Jenny doesn't have any of that, she's so attached to him. I feel like over the course of the show, it's safe to say that Jenny just keeps being done dirty time and time again. But even though, like, bad circumstances are, like, just what she's used to, I still do think that she's gotten more bitter and just kind of turned more rotten as the show has gone on. So I understand, like, her departure, and I feel like it was what was best for her character. I just don't think that the set of other characters or just the setting in New York City was just what her character needed anymore, and it was just kind of nothing left for her there anymore. So I do understand why she left, and I definitely think it's good for her, and hopefully, like, some character growth happened, like, when she left. But yeah, I just don't think it was the move for Jenny to stay any more than what she did, and I'm glad for it. But I don't really see much, like, opinion or just discourse around Jenny's character, so I wanted to share my opinions, and if you have any similar, let me know in the comments. Moving on to Serena. Serena had a hot girl summer, and she was going to go to Brown, but she didn't. So now Serena came back from a hot girl summer. She was, like, all over the place. And you've seen her in, like, newspapers and magazines and stuff, kind of just wilding out. So now that she's come back, she's left to deal with the repercussions of her actions. You see that Rufus is trying to step in and be, like, more of a father figure to her. And he's kind of disappointed in her and wants her to calm down and just go off to Brown. And Serena kind of defies him because she's never had an active father in her life. All of Lily's husbands have been kind of absent, or they've just been trying to bribe her and Eric's, like, love and just approval of him. So now that she has a real, like, father in her life who has, like, her best intentions at heart, whether she likes it or not, it's definitely something that Serena is trying to get used to. This season, you see Serena doesn't want to go to Brown. She is just not ready to leave New York City and her family and friends behind, which I totally understand, but she's just still needs some time in the city, so she revokes her commitment to Brown, and she goes into the work field as well, and she tries to pursue a career in, like, public relations and things like that. This season, you see that as Serena gets more into her work, she helps Nate's family, the Vanderbilt side, in a political campaign. His cousin Tripp is running for, like, congressman or something like that, so she gets involved in his campaign, and that's really her first, like, big girl job. She does, Serena, she's gonna find her man anywhere she goes, so of course her and Tripp kind of have some feelings for each other, but it doesn't work out because he's married, and then he's trying to be a politician, and he's several years older than Serena, so I don't really know where she thought she was gonna be the one to come out, like, unscathed, because there's so many, like, strengths that Tripp has. He has the people for publicity. He has a wife who's willing to ignore the whole affair situation. He's so much older, so he has a lot more knowledge than Serena has. And, like, she's really only 18, so I still don't get how she thought she was going to come out on top, but for some reason she did. And so it kind of hurt for a while, but then Nate swooped in and he confessed his feelings for her. And so they were together for a while. I truly enjoyed seeing Serena and Nate together. I thought they had a lot more honesty and just communication than a lot of the other couples on the show. But you do see Serena kind of drop the ball a couple of times when she slips off to go with Carter Bazin, who she used to date, like, a couple years ago. So Nate's kind of jealous with that. But turns out she's still looking for her dad. Her dad's, like, a doctor, and he doesn't want to be in her life. So she keeps reaching out to Carter to try and find him because apparently Carter knows where her dad is. So yeah, she's been kind of off with that, and she's been hiding that from Nate. So Nate kind of feels insecure about that. But I just feel like they're so cute. But my one critique to them is because, like, they're such a healthy relationship that they should have come later in the show, because of course, like, everyone loves the drama and stuff like that, and because they were such an unproblematic couple and just so compatible for each other, they didn't have like that much problems or just anything to work through like that. So I feel like it would have been better to see them at the end so that they could have stayed together, because I'm so sad that they broke up. And like, you could tell that Nate didn't really want to break up, but he felt like their relationship just had too many outside people preying on their downfall. Like, you had Jenny, she wants Nate. You have Carter, who's helping Serena find her dad, even though he low-key wants her. You have Chuck, who's hating on them, like, because he's going through all his problems. He low-key ate Nate up when he was like, you think you and Serena have all those problems. Like, your biggest problem is whose hair is shinier. Like, he low-key ate that, but still, he was kind of right. They just don't have many problems, so I don't think they would have lasted long anyways, just because it's only season 3 out of 6 seasons. Moving on to Dan. Like I said, Dan is definitely finding his footing a lot better than a lot of the other kids in college, because he goes to NYU, so it's more of a liberal arts kind of school, and he's a writer, so he's finding more people who have those same interests as him and just have similar values to him, especially because of the high school that he went to and everyone was so different from him. Now he's kind of finding his tribe and just his footing there. He starts off dating this celebrity named Olivia, and she's played by Hilary Duff. And for a couple episodes, they kind of hit it off really well. I don't know what these girls see in Dan, but Olivia is kind of like a Serena, like, fake. She has blonde hair, she's super famous, and just bubbly and giggly, but still pretty down to earth and nice for someone who's famous. But Dan really likes her. But then some things happen, if you know, you know, where Dan is put in the spot where he kind of has feelings for Vanessa, so he confesses to her about that, and they start dating. I'm not the biggest fan of Dan in the show, but I did like him and Vanessa together. I just think they were two very agreeable people, and they just complemented each other well, especially because they were friends for so long before that, and like truly just best friends, so they understand each other a lot. But their biggest struggles this season was trying to find like where their relationship kind of takes them now, because Dan kind of feels like the relationship can just stay the same, like they're best friends but they just love each other. But Vanessa kind of feels like it should be new because they are in a more romantic relationship versus a platonic one, and it kind of just feels weird because Vanessa has been around for so long. It feels like she's part of the Humphrey family, and Rufus kind of looks at her like a daughter now, so they have their problems with that, just trying to find balance in their relationship. But unfortunately, they have like some competition with each other too, because they're so similar. You see in the past, Vanessa has had interest in becoming a director, and Dan has kind of been more into writing, but now that they're in college and they go to the same college, they're presented a lot of the same opportunities. So there's like this writing competition, and Dan has always wanted to go to like the school of writing or whatever. It's called Tisch. And so he submits his application, and it's like probably one of the most important things in his life at this point. Vanessa secretly does it too, and for what reason, I don't know. Like, girl, you said you wanted to be a director. Why are you writing a whole play? Like, it doesn't really make sense why she keeps doing these things behind his back, but it does. And so it just creates a lot of discourse in their relationship to the point where they can't talk about it, but they're so passionate about like their futures and just their majors that it's kind of hard not to. So yeah, I do enjoy Dan and Vanessa together, but I don't think they were like by no means necessary endgame or anything like that. I just enjoyed it for what it was. Moving on to Chuck and Blair, they have a lot to talk about this season. So this season starts off where they're locked in and they're going on strong. They have this little game to keep their relationship interesting, to say the least, is where Chuck will find a girl and then he'll flirt with her, and just when it's about to go too far, Blair will interject, and then she'll like yell at the girl and make her feel bad. And then it somehow creates like this really weird vibe between Chuck and Blair, but for some reason they like it. But yeah, the biggest like problem that they face as a couple this season is when Chuck loses his empire to his uncle Jack. Jack has been wanting it so bad for whatever reason, and so he has it, and he makes the proposition to Chuck that he'll give Chuck back the empire just as it is in exchange for one thing. And of course, without hesitation, Chuck wants it back really bad, so they make the proposition, and the exchange is for Blair. Jack will give Chuck his empire back in exchange for Blair. And Chuck sells his whole girlfriend, the quote-unquote love of his life, like she's a sack of oranges on the highway. It's so, like, just crazy. And I kind of lost all respect for Chuck, because he'll act like he loves Blair like so selflessly and just so much, but I don't think he does. I think he likes Blair a lot in comparison to how he likes other people, because he just lacks like empathy for others. But I don't think he loves Blair or likes Blair more than himself. But I do think that Blair really loves Chuck more than herself. So I just feel like they care for each other at a lot of different levels, and you see that with how they act. So basically, Chuck didn't want Blair to get mad at him, because who wouldn't be mad that their boyfriend is selling them like a hot dog on the corner? Like, she was upset. He didn't want her to get upset. So he went behind her back and he made it seem like it was a whole proposition just from Jack that Chuck didn't know about. And so Blair, of course, because she cares about her boyfriend, she did it, and she thought she was doing what she could do and like the best that she could do. But she ended up finding out, because Jack didn't actually want her. He just wanted to embarrass them and just kind of cause discourse in their relationship. So they broke up because of that, and I'm glad they did. In the first couple episodes, I did enjoy Chuck and Blair together. I thought they kind of matched and made sense. But then as season 3 kind of went on, I seen Chuck's true colors, and I don't really like him. Blair's already been in an insecure kind of state because she's struggling to find her footing in her adult life. And at first, when Chuck would reassure her and just try and help her out, I thought that he truly cared for her and he was a lot more invested in their relationship. But obviously, it was not true. So I don't really like Chuck and Blair. My favorite couple this season was probably Serena and Nate. So that is all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure you follow me on my other social medias at teentvdeepdive podcast for more updates, as well as posts for when I make new